So good to have you and meet you physically, because the last time we had a long conversation was in the middle of the unmentionable years. But we have come a long way. So let me start off with a larger picture, sir. Everybody knows the brand that you represent, and it is one of the best in the country. We've all had the privilege of being customers, shareholders, and beyond that. How's the overall picture looking exciting now for the future in India and in tourism and in hospitality, sir?
I think India's, firstly, good morning, everyone. Very difficult to follow the act of the Dabbawalas, but koshish karte hain, because if they are so much in business for over a century, then Taj is also in the business for over 120 years. So, I think, and I'm very optimistic, this is just the beginning of a very long cycle for hospitality, which is more now need-driven, experience-driven, as well as driven by the growth of India from whatever number 20 economy in the world to number 5, and almost well positioned to become number 3 by 2030. So hospitality, travel, the government spent on infrastructure, creating highways, renaissance of train stations, doubling, tripling of airports, ordering of 500 plus aircraft just between Indigo and Air India. I am very, very convinced that this sector is going to boom. But more importantly, the boom in this sector will begin to have an impact on the number of jobs. Undoubtedly, globally, the sector is recognized for being the highest multiplicator of jobs. So each job in this sector creates 6 to 12 jobs. It depends how you count it, how much in formal, how much in informal sector. So your food supplier, your limousine drivers, your, the person who helps you to hike, like with Dabbawala, we also say that Pithuwala, right, in the hills for hiking, and the Shikarawala and the Rickshawala in Banaras. So I think all this is going to propel a lot of growth, and the sector will contribute definitely in the next 5-7 years, 10% to India's GDP growth.
Are you seeing the change happening? Because, there's a push to say that, okay, let's do more weddings in India, okay? Let's rediscover more places in India. So the infrastructure growth, of course, if the airport is built, becomes easy to travel. If the road is built, people are trying new destinations. So are you seeing people, because we've had a concentration, ultimate luxury is either resort destination or it's the 5 stars focused Delhi, Bombay. But are you seeing new areas and new avenues, new cities emerge?
Absolutely. There's a lot of tier 2, tier 3 cities that are coming up. Look at just Ayodhya for that matter. Nobody talked about hotels in Ayodhya. Now you talk about 100 hotels in Ayodhya over the next 5-7 years. A lot of spiritual destinations. Like 1 week ago, we opened our second hotel in Tirupati. Actually, for the audience, we are present in 50 plus spiritual destinations in India. And whether it's Ajmer or it's a Rishikesh or it's Anant Kashi on Ganges or it's a Pilibhit house in Haridwar or 2 hotels in Katra, Vaishno Devi. So I think, and Madurai with Meenakshi temple. So I think it's just the beginning, and very importantly, this whole thing about being spiritual is becoming a part of our DNA. It was always more religious driven. Spiritual is more holistic approach. And I think it'll become a very important part of our leadership. And tier 2, tier 3, new destination cities are definitely going to boom. But we should not discount metros. See where we are seated. In BKC, if there is an event happening in Geo, you can forget getting a room even if you book 1 month in advance. Even in 5 square kilometer of BKC, there are no rooms. So I think all in all, it's good news, touch wood every year, because we have seen zero revenue in COVID. We have seen a lockdown in COVID. We have seen how nobody was allowed to come to hotels. Restaurants were shut. I don't know क्या था, एक वो भी था कि 4 बजे के बाद शायद कोविड का वायरस ज़्यादा आता था, तो 4 बजे के बाद सारे रेस्टोरेंट बंद कर दो. So till 4 it's okay to go. So I think given where we are coming from, it's it's very nice, and I hope it stays like that.
Okay, let me mention to a lot of hoteliers who provided their hotel facilities and kept their hotel facilities, their restaurant facilities, food facilities open. Many hotels, of course, gave away rooms in isolation centers. So I mentioned marriages. How is the marriage market now booming after COVID as well?
See, India is very blessed to have the strongest wedding market in the world, and wedding is a celebration. Wedding is not just a celebration, it is a social event. In India, weddings bring lots of families together, which in the West, people find it very odd because you may not necessarily know the bride or bridegroom, but you happen to be at the wedding, right? And you bless them because it's a social gathering. And I think this is going to keep increasing. It's there to stay. It's very good for all sectors, whether it's a jewelry sector or it's a gifting sector or it's a hospitality sector, restaurants. I think wedding is a part of our cultural DNA, and it's there to stay. So with Make in India to Heal in India, now like Wed in India is, I think, also positive news for the sector.
Okay, let me ask you a specific question because you are a dipstick frontline person who can help us understand this. In terms of business excitement, in terms of investment, because you are the people who then organize and have all the guests to stay with you, come and organize conferences in your hotels all across the country, and in fact in large parts of South Asia. Are you seeing an excitement, a sentiment and change that a lot of people from all, from Dubai, from Abu Dhabi, it's just not Indians going there, it's people wanting to come here?
Unfortunately, not yet. So the only thing I'm not so positive about is that we are not doing enough. We have to do a bit more, both the sector, the government at the center level, at the state level, to make the world aware of what all India has to offer. And we are still 60% of where the foreign tourist arrival was, if I adjust for the G20 numbers, because those delegates came because the G20 was happening. But the only reason there also one can be positive that regional tourism and domestic post a pandemic took charge to come out of the bad times is a common factor across the globe. So that's one, but India never had a very big share. We were only at like 10 million. I think that number should be aspirational, should be 100 million by 2047.
Okay, that's a game-changing figure. Hopefully we get there faster than that. What about the conceptualization that the Indian domestic traveler has always been considered a budget traveler, where the cost priority has been paramount? Are you seeing? I remember not too long ago, maybe a decade or two ago, where a five-star hotel was a once in a rare luxury. Are the standards of hospitality that are being expected across the hotel industry rising?
See, the standards are very good, especially in Asia. We have very good culture of service with Atithi Devo Bhavo. Whether it's India or it's Thailand or it's Indonesia, I think generally speaking, the Asian standards are very high. And they will only keep going higher. People will be willing to pay more for more, as I said at the beginning, experiences which are very unique. As the world is also getting richer, India is getting richer. A lot of people are moved into middle and higher middle class, which is like 300-400 million new target customers for us. So I think you can expect positive news, positive development, positive experiences and positive service.
Okay, we've had an overall conversation about the country and the sector. Let's talk about Taj Hotels. What are your plans now going ahead? And I'll take it themologically. You mentioned wellness, you mentioned experiences. So how is that different from the luxury experience that is offered in metropolitan centers like this?
See, we created or let's say we reimagined our brandscape. So at the top, absolute top, we have the Taj Palaces. Then we have obviously the Taj Business and Leisure Hotels. Then we have Vivanta and Selections. Selections is a named collection. It's a collection of hotels that does not require brand, which are very strong in their marketplace, like an ambassador in Delhi or president in Mumbai. I would not even say president in Mumbai. A lot of people say they're going to Trattoria or Thai Pavilion. They don't even say they're going to the President Hotel. Blue Diamond in Pune. So that's yours. It's a named collection of hotels. And then we have reimagined Ginger, which is opened not so far from here, our flagship Ginger in Santa Cruz, which is almost 400 rooms and an investment of 500 crores. Besides that, 2 days ago, we announced a partnership with Tree of Life. That's another brand which will be small boutique, 25 to 50 rooms that will spread across India. Then we have our homestay business, which is Ama, that we launched around the pandemic time. And during the peak of the pandemic, we launched our home delivery as well as the all-day dining called Cumin. So we have every Ginger hotel will have a Cumin all-day dining restaurant. And that's our brand today. And in our Q3 results, we also announced that we are coming up with another new brand, which will be positioned either alongside Vivanta or just below Taj, which will be our upscale, full service, actually directed at what you just now mentioned, tier 2, tier 3 cities. Good for weddings, good for families, good for that market, but not necessarily a Taj or a Vivanta, which is very stylish, so that it fits in with the cultural fabric of that marketplace.
Okay, it'll be remiss to be sitting here, and the reason we, of course, have you here is to celebrate the contribution, long-standing, historic, 100-year-old contribution that the group has played to the fabric of Mumbai. So, what are plans for Mumbai, sir? How is the Mumbai market evolving? Because when we get the headlines, we see the infrastructure change and the Sea Link and the Atal Setu, and everywhere you travel, something is under construction in Mumbai. So, what are plans for Mumbai, both in legacy assets and going ahead?
See, Mumbai is the backbone of our company. That all started here in 1903. Our just one hotel, Taj Mahal Palace Tower in Colaba, is slated to do almost 700 crores in revenue and another like 40% in EBITDA. Just one property. A lot of companies say we have so many hotels, we have so many rooms. All those put together would not equal to the revenue of one hotel. Then if we add Taj Lands End to it, Taj Santa Cruz to it, the 4 Ginger or 5 Ginger properties maybe in the interim. We have Vivanta in Navi Mumbai. We have hotels coming up in Thane. But very important that the most important city from a revenue and profitability perspective is Mumbai for us. It was also important, as you mentioned before, for COVID. Human memory is very short. See Chef Hemant Oberoi sitting in the front. Another chef who's my class fellow and friend of mine, he called me on 18th of March 2020. अरे भाई यार कुछ करते हैं ये बहुत गड़बड़ हो रही है कोविड तो I said क्या करना है let's start giving food in hospitals so I said उससे क्या होगा he says you will see if we start others will follow you just now said all companies did so I said okay let me see our flight kitchen was shut as the airports were the first to shut down so we got the flight kitchen open which is a very big operation in Mumbai we started serving meals and we served 6 million meals across India.
Well done. I think that deserves a round of applause. Fabulous.
And 120,000 bed nights for the frontline workers who were neither able to go home because there was no transportation, nor were they allowed to come to their homes because people were worried. They are working with the patients, so they will spread COVID in the building. But our people did what they could. And then when that started becoming news, this friend of mine was so right because everybody else started following. So the contribution of hospitality sector during COVID was par excellence. And we all feel very proud of it in hindsight.
You mentioned Chef Hemant Oberoi last time, or the first time I interviewed him was, of course, it's been 16 years. And it's emblematic that every time Mumbai has had a crisis, and we've discussed COVID, how the Taj Group has been at the front line of revival through it. For those of you who don't know, Chef Hemant, if I'm not mistaken, was in Mumbai at that night of 26/11. What's the journey been like, sir, since then? Because now we are looking at almost 15 years later. but it's still stuck in our imagination, and I'm sure it is for a lot of people who are watching this in their homes, of the Taj Hotel. Post that, we are seeing a better security environment now. Hopefully it stays that way. But what's the journey been for the family, for the staff, and the ethos it created within the group?
There's a Harvard case study on how the employees put themselves in front of the guests and took the bullets. I was not there, but I have read that study. I've heard a lot of stories about it. I think that became a benchmark and very well researched. But if we forget these terrible incidents, I think we should let that bad past behind us. Taj is been rated as world's strongest hotel brand for last 3 years, twice as number 1 and once as number 4. Taj is rated as India's strongest brand across all sectors for last 4 years, thrice as number 1, and 2 years ago once as number 2. And Taj is not just a crown jewel of Indian Hotels Company, but is the crown jewel of India. When you work for the Taj, you serve India. So I think at the forefront of G20, 70% of all G20 functions were hosted by the Taj, from Kumarakam to Srinagar to, wherever destination you want to pick up on, because nobody covers India like we do with 120 plus destinations. So I think all in all, this is a great institution. It was a first, I would say, gift of Tata Group to this city, because this is the oldest operating company of Tata Group. It's not Tata Steel, by the way, even if that's a bigger company. So it's the Taj, and this wonderful legacy is doing very well. Also financially, it's not all just terror and supporting frontline workers. It's had 7 consecutive quarters of record performance, and all stakeholders, shareholders, employees, society, everybody has benefited immensely from this institution, and I assure you it will continue to benefit.
Okay, a couple of last questions since we are short on time. Puneetji, now looking at how the standards are changing across the country. Now we are expecting the same to happen, sir, in railway services. Better standards are being expected in airline services, in airports, at train stations, in bus stations. I'm seeing a fabulous new bus station being built in the national capital, which looks like an airport, and never imagine going to ISBT, Interstate Bus Terminal, and expecting to be sitting in a comfortable environment. So the standards across the board, and what are the lessons that can be drawn? Because when you're training tens of thousands of people, many of whom are careerists, they spend decades in the Taj, but providing that trained human power across the board, how do we learn lessons from that as well in many sectors, not just yours, sir?
See, there are 2 things. One, I will, on a more humorous note, but to that I come later. The first one, on a more serious note, is we have committed to skill 100,000 people by 2030. We are ahead of our guidance and doing quite well. This is together with CII and a few of our partners. We just launched the 32nd skill center in Ekta Nagar, which is Kevadia. And that journey continues, because it's not us who will require 100,000 people. Our total associates is 32,000, and if we increase it by 20-30%, it goes to 40. So that means 90,000 is for the rest of the sectors. So this is a part of our initiative, of our social commitment. But others, if they want, then we are happy to consider, that's a humorous note, a kind of a consulting unit where we say there's a Taj Consulting Services to help people establish beautiful train stations, the renaissance of train stations, or the renaissance of bus stations, and all other service points. Very happy to do so.
Okay, I'll end it with this question on the same themology about people who become part of the Taj family. Like I said, several spend decades in it. So what is the process for a lot of young people out there, and there are 600 million under the age of 30 now, who are looking in training. So how do you recruit people? How do you train them? How do you take them all across the country in various kinds of postings? How do you house them? And where do they see their careers building from there?
I think all that keeps changing and evolving. That is part of your business strategies and tactics and how to train people. So your strategies and tactics can change every few years, that you have a plan for 3 years and a plan for 5 years. Important is your core values that guide the organization through its life cycle. So we remain guided by core values, which are 5 core values of Tata Group, and the 3 core values of Taj. So I'm very happy to share with the audience that Taj stands for trust, awareness, and joy. Trust of all our stakeholders, awareness of our communities, and joy in doing whatever we do. If we are able to inculcate these 3 simple words in all of our associates ideally, or if majority of the associates, then what we call the feeling of Tajness cannot be missed by anyone when they come to our institutions.
All right, Puneet Chhatwal, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Let's have a big round of applause. Like I said, the company itself needs no introduction in this country. Puneet ji has been gracious enough to provide us insights into where it is headed, and it's looking fantastically rosy, financially rosy, as a business rosy, and of course as a service, which is quintessentially is rosy.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.